How many of you don't want to raise your hand? How many of you had something to say?
Oh, that's a good one.
My name is Mukund, and I run Microsoft Ventures. I'm based here in Seattle. When I say here, I mean generally here. What I wanted to do is just take a few minutes, talk a little bit about my background so I give you some context, and then walk you through what we do at Microsoft Ventures. How many of you have heard about Microsoft Ventures before? You're just raising your hand because
we're drinking.
He's recording it as well. Nice side. So I've been an entrepreneur before, and I sold my company, and that's how I got to Microsoft. So my company was called BuzzGate. It did social media monitoring software, integrated into a couple of different products as well. I've had about a 20-year career. 3 startups that I started actually succeeded, and 4 of them failed. Miserable. The miserable failures were more miserable than the wonderful things that the successes had, which I think goes with the lay of the land, right? How many of you have done more than one startup? You know what I'm talking about. I want to talk about one of my failures first, because the successes, I think, I didn't quite learn anything other than the fact that I was lucky. So I learned that I was lucky when I did a successful startup, but I don't think I learned anything more than that. So there's a company called Accelerator that we started back in 1990. Some of you would have heard of the name Vinod Khosla, Kleiner Perkins. He was one of the first original investors in the company. And the company essentially was a little bit too early again this time, whatever reason might be. We raised $152 million, $152 million in 2 years. Anybody who was everybody invested in the company, from SAP Ventures, Intel Capital, obviously Kleiner Perkins, Matrix Partners, anybody and everybody, $152 million. And we sold the company for $3 million. You're laughing. You know why we sold it for $3 million? The Aeron chairs that we had were more expensive than anything else in Vietnam. So $3 million worth of Aeron chairs was what the company that bought us actually bought, not the software that we actually built over 2.5 years. Yes?
How much did you own of the company when it was sold?
Up to $3 million. Well, I don't know if you know about things like covenants and early disclosures. So what happens is when venture investors invest, as part of the term sheet, they also have what is called liquidation preferences. Most of you know about liquidation preferences, which means that anything that gets sold, they get the first stab up to a certain amount of money. And we had a 4x liquidation preference on $3 million. So of the $3 million, I think they got $3 million. I owned about a little under 3% of the company, because after all the dilutions, that's essentially what happened. So, and I failed at other startups as well. So this wasn't my only failure. The reason I say that is because even after all that, I'm still here. And that's what most of us entrepreneurs do, right? What I wanted to walk you through was a little bit about what we're doing for entrepreneurs, specifically at Microsoft Ventures. And I want to keep it as interactive as possible, so feel free, like you just did, to stop me at any point in time and ask questions. And if I'm BSing, just let me know. I'm okay with that. I probably will do a little bit, so at least you can keep me honest.
You okay with BSing, or else letting you know you're BSing?
So Microsoft has been working with startups for quite a bit of time. Over the last few years, we've been doing a lot of different programs, all the way from, most of you probably heard of BizSpark, allows you to be able to get started. The way to look at it is 3 programs, as Brett had mentioned, right? We get you started to build a product. Get you started to build a product, we typically would get you into the BizSpark program, for example, give you some free credits for software, give you the ability to at least get a product out there. In some cases, most of you probably know, it's called an MVP. Just get your product, test it out, see if it works. The next step above and beyond that is we actually have the ability for you to be able to go ahead and grow the business. So build the product, grow the business. Grow the business, we actually have 8 accelerators worldwide, about 230, about 300 people in our organization focus on helping companies in our accelerator programs primarily. Over the last 2.5 years, we've invested in about 272 companies. So 2.5 years, 272 companies, 15 of those companies have been acquired. We put relatively small amounts of money, between $25,000 or so, to be able to get the company up and running. In the Accelerator programs, they exist in Beijing, in Bangalore, Tel Aviv, London, Paris, Berlin, in Seattle, and one in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And yes, although everybody over here wants to apply to Sao Paulo, Brazil and go there, I think you'd like to be in Seattle. So in these locations, of the 15 startups that have been acquired, one of them has been acquired by Microsoft, 2 of them acquired by Google, 3 by Amazon, 2 by Yahoo, and the rest by other companies like Facebook and Tencent, etc. Of these 272 companies in the last 2.5 years, 89% have gone and secured some level of funding outside of Microsoft, meaning somebody else outside, like an angel investor or most likely an angel group would have funded them as well. 27% of them have acquired some kind of Series A, which is typically in the range of about $2 million to about $5 million. So we've got fairly good numbers overall to be able to show that we've actually had a program that helps. So that's grow your business. And then the stage above and beyond that is actually scale your company. So we get involved, get our partners involved, and actually help you get financed as well. Not every one of them starts going to up into the list. That's essentially what Microsoft Ventures does. We did the first accelerator in Seattle. Let me talk a little bit about that. There were about 10 companies. We focused on the home automation space. We partnered with American Family Insurance. And we said, let's look at what's going on in the IoT home automation space. 10 companies that applied were in a diverse range of things that they do for the home. It was held in Seattle from March all the way up to July. I'm sorry, from August all the way until December. We had an demo day in December. 2 companies before the program actually had their product. After the program, we had 10. All 10 have built out their product. So we helped them with design, we helped them with technology in different areas of what they needed help with. 3 companies had gotten some. How many of you guys are making hardware companies? Anybody doing hardware? Really? What does that mean? Soft hardware? The reason why they call it hardware, there is a reason why they call it hardware. It's freaking hard. It is really, really hard. So if you're doing hardware, keep that in mind. Hardware is extremely hard. The failure rate of hardware companies is 99.37%. The failure rate of software companies is 99%. And you think 99.3 versus 99.9 is not a big difference. I mean, guys, it's a lot. Trust me. There's a huge chance you fail if you're a hardware company. There's a big chance you'll fail if you're a software company. And for everybody else like us, we're just playing dogs. But hey, we're gamblers, right? So we put about $25,000 in, and we started working with these 10 companies. Here are the 10 companies to a little bit. And we try to focus on helping them in different areas. Sorry, can you see her? We try and focus on helping them in different areas. I'll talk a little bit about what are the areas that we help them with essentially, more than anything else. One of the amazing things we did as part of the program, because they were all hardware companies, is we went to Shenzhen as well. How many of you guys have been to China? How many of you have been to Shenzhen? Shenzhen, for people that don't know, is the hardware capital of the world. Okay? You will get more original fakes here than any other place in the world. How many of you know what an original fake is? It's an original, but it's a fake. That your Hermes bag? Yeah. So in 30 square kilometers, you have close to about 1.2 million hardware companies. 1.2 million hardware companies. And anything and everything that you want to build in hardware, they'll copy and give it to you in a matter of days. I actually have a phone, and I'm not kidding, I'll show you this. I have it in my bag. It's I'm going to get a little technical for a little bit. Most of you geeks will love it. How many engineers? Show of hands, how many engineers? God, what, the rest of you politicians? I mean, seriously.
Lawyers? Must be lawyers.
Must be lawyers, okay. Politicians and lawyers and anybody else here in DC? Okay, so I've got a 7-inch IPS quad-core, 4-core display with 2 gigabytes of RAM phone, dual SIM, which means it can actually make calls. It works. It's got the latest Android KitKat operating system running on it. $28. $28. It works. I've had it for 3 months. It makes calls, receives calls. Sometimes when my wife calls, it drops calls. Brilliant. Don't tell my wife that. So here's the amazing part, right? When you start with a hardware company, you try and initially build this microcontroller, right? You have this microcontroller. Most of you guys know. Anybody heard of things like Arduino and Raspberry Pi and things of that nature? Yeah. So if you go to Amazon.com and you go and search for a microcontroller like an Arduino, it costs about 35 to about 50 bucks. So Uno costs about 35 to 50 bucks. You can go all the way up to about 70 bucks with some of the microcontrollers to do a lot of different things. So we go to Shenzhen and we go into this place which has this really huge, every small little place is about 50 square foot of just electronics. Whatever you want, they'll buy it for you and they get it for you. Amazing thing is you can't really talk to them because they speak in Mandarin, you speak in English. The only thing you do is you say how much and then they open a calculator and punch a number. And that's how you communicate, right? So we went there and we said, oh, okay, we want to buy a few Arduino microcontrollers. I bought one on Amazon. So I was like, how much? And she charges 45. I'm like, what the hell? This is the same price as there. Difference is, I wanted one, she gave me a pound. A pound of microcontrollers for the same price as one microcontroller here on Amazon. If you get a chance, go. If nothing else, you'll get a $28 IPS display, really top-of-the-line phone, which still works and drops calls from your not so interested person that you want to call them. The thing that I think I wanted to talk a little bit about is the next cohort. How many of you are in B2B? Anybody here in B2C? Okay. So we're focusing the next cohort specifically on enterprise and B2B kind of companies. Companies that allow you the ability to be able to work with what you can do for the enterprise. Whether it's a collaboration company, it's a communications company, or if it is companies that do work in variables and help field and salespeople be able to be more effective, or also big data and cloud computing, software as a service, etc. The reason is because we have a lot of great customers. Microsoft, practically speaking, you probably know, has most customers of the world, has most of the companies of the world who are customers of ours. So we are trying to figure out a way to be able to help them be more effective and efficient as they look for innovation and trying to bring startups to them as much as the startups can benefit by working with larger companies. That's the area of focus for the next cohort. It will begin. The next cohort will begin sometime in the March timeframe and will end in the July timeframe. There are three most important things that we offer as part of the Accelerator. I'm going to finish this slide and then pause for questions, because usually after this slide I get a lot more questions than I would any other time. Okay? Three most important things that we offer. We give you a $25,000 investment, and we do not take a percentage of your company in return. Okay? That's the first thing. So it's an anti-dilution, no dilution effect investment. All right? Second thing that we do is we make sure that we focus on introducing you to the one thing that matters the most, which is customers. How do I get you in front of as many good customers as possible so you can validate your products, you can validate what the customers actually need. If there's a real pain point, a real problem, and be able to make sure that you can start having a conversation with potential people who could be people who would buy something or partner or whatever the relationship is. The third thing we focus on is actually giving you help in specific areas of design, storytelling, for example, as a way and means to be able to get you to do things in 4 months that would take you 12 months to do. Fair enough? Those are three unique, different things that we offer as part of the program. Let me pause at this point. Let me see if you guys have any questions. If you don't have questions, I'm going to ask questions. Shout it out.
What's in it for you guys?
What's in it? Brilliant, see? I told you, DC is smarter than every other place. That's the first question there. I would expect that to be the first question. So one of the things, what's in it for us, right? One of the things that we've not done, so let me preface the question by giving you a few stats as well. I told you we've invested in about 272 companies, right? A little over 60% of those companies don't use any Microsoft technology. So we don't focus on forcing you to use any Microsoft technology. Number one. If you want to use it, we help you. If you don't want to use it, we want to make sure that you succeed. Over the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years, we've kind of lost our way with startups. Microsoft used to be the company that a lot of startups would actually love and work with. Now, not only because of the fact that we have a lot more competition, but also because of the fact that we didn't quite do a few things right in terms of what startups and entrepreneurs specifically needed. We found that a lot of startups and entrepreneurs are going away from us. Let me give you an example. Let's take Grant. Grant and I tomorrow start a company, right? We're going to call it grantmccoon.com. All right? What's the first thing that we do? We go get a domain. We go to GoDaddy, or we go to Domain Chief or Namecheap or anybody else and get a domain, right? The next thing we do is we have to get email. Now that we have a domain, we have to get email. What do you guys do for email around here? Sorry? Google Apps. There you go. You go to Google and you grab a Gmail or Google Apps or something like that, right? Are we with me? After that, Grant seems like more of a sales guy, and I seem like more of an engineer. I still ship code. So that means I can do some coding. Whether it's good or bad, we'll debate that later. Right? Don't debate on that. That's not good at this. Otherwise, I'll be coding and stuff, right?
You're fired.
I'm fired as well. Yeah, the start of the company is already fired. Typical of a non-engineer. By the way, Grant, what are you going to do without engineering? You can fire me, you're not going to ship the products. But, okay, so we start, and we go and get a cloud service to be able to get the software up and running, right? And the default cloud provider right now is Amazon, right? Where does Microsoft fit in this picture? We don't. We've got to find a more effective way to be able to connect the earliest of early stage startups, because that's important for us to be able to understand where innovation is actually headed. What we get out of the program is an ability to be able to work with these companies and get a lot of feedback on what's working for us, what's not working. We get feedback on our product. Some of these companies, actually a lot of these companies tried our products, and they tell us what is messed up with it, so we can work that a little better. We also internally are trying to find a way to be able to change the culture within Microsoft, as you might have heard and seen from what Satya is doing as part of being the new CEO. And what that helps us also do is to get a lot of people energized on how they can change based on the way startups actually work. So we get a lot of benefit out of the program anyway. The amount of money that we spend on this is insignificant. Don't get me wrong, it still gets measured by individual and internal rate of return and total value of paid in capital. And those investments are the ones that we make in companies above and beyond this program, and that makes more money for us than we get from this program itself. Right? So when we make a significant investment and take percent of the company, those are the ones that give us the returns. And have had good returns. We've also had raises as a return, for example. So the way brutal, but still we returned the fund just with that one investment. Okay, does that answer your question? More questions? Yes.
So,
and mention your name as well, so it becomes easy for me to say.
So in the previous slide, it indicated there's a focus on digital work. Is that the only thing you guys are looking for?
That's it.
Part two?
That's it. That's it.
That's what we do, just small companies.
You can stay and have food. And you can network with other people. But if you want to apply to the accelerator, there's not a good chance that you'll get it, because we are focused only on digital work and productivity. So if there's not a company that is in the space, it may not be a good fit. Yes, sir. Akamshi. I mentioned your name as well.
Aaron Reinhardt with Testbed, CEO. So with the Accelerator, what if you're an operational business already? And I noticed the requirement of, 3 or 4 months in Seattle? 4 months? That's a big commitment for if you're, or an income potential risk if to take out 4 months. What are we getting for that?
Right. So I mentioned the 3 things. So the question is, okay.
are we getting, I have to look at it from a value perspective of my customers. Am I getting that back from you?
Right. So the question is, what do we get? We have to move from here over to Seattle in 4 months. You've got a running business already.
And a family.
And a family. It seems like they have 2 families.
I'm not
One is
a
a business, one is a family.
Yeah, not a college kid out of college looking to get a.
So this program is specifically aimed for people. Yes. This program is specifically aimed for people that actually will be there in Seattle.
Why?
So
if I have an operational successful
Sure.
business, why is that not a successful venture for Microsoft versus someone who's more of a risk or a gamble in whether or not their app will succeed?
So here's what happens. I'll give you what happened with the last program.
I'm not trying to be tough. I'm just really.
Don't worry, it's a good question. It's a fair question. I want to make sure that I get the right kind of companies coming in. Right? It becomes difficult for us and difficult for you as well.
Yeah.
So what we found is a lot of these, for like our last cohort, for example, we had Lowe's, we had Home Depot, we had Walmart, we had Intel, Dell, all of these guys who actually ended up, 2 out of them, sorry. I just want to wake them up.
I'm sorry.
I just keep going near the speaker so I can wake them up. It makes a screeching noise. So a lot of these customers, I cannot predict exactly which day and time they actually come up and then being at Microsoft. So what happens is if I send you a notice on Friday saying, hey, Walmart's going to be here on Monday, you trying to fly all the way from DC over there becomes extremely hard. So as much as we could plan and say this customer is going to be here at this point in time, and to give you some context, in the last batch, in the last cohort, 4 of those companies actually got distribution from both Walmart, Best Buy, because of us making those introductions for them during the program. Second part of it is design and technology resources. They have to keep working with those guys all the time anyway. So for example, in the last cohort, we found that packaging design and industrial design was an important aspect for 2 of the companies. The ones that spent more time there got more value out of the program. The ones that did not. So much as I'd like to be able to get companies that could come in and fly out, it's not.
I'm just saying, if you're trying to appeal to startups, there's still a gap there between that piece
Which is
And,
why we want a
yeah.
specific kind of startup.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Which is why,
That's why I
startup
came
that
to
is,
see the voice
yeah,
that.
yeah. So if a startup has already got about 10, 15 people and you've got a big business and you feel you don't want to move there have been companies that have moved there as well. Probably not a good fit, and it's okay. Right? It's perfectly okay. Yes, sir.
Scott Keel with Contractor. Describe key large customers. I think you kind of answered that already in the last
Sure.
question, Walmart and so on, but can you just give us more? Our business, I believe, is really geared towards small medium-sized business. We can scale the large business, but we're finding our initial traction in SMB.
So the question was, describe what do you mean by, careful, sir. Describe what do you mean by large business, because his business specifically, Scott, you said, right, is in SMB. So practically speaking, 98 or 99% of all large Fortune 1000 companies are customers of Microsoft. 92% of small businesses are customers of Microsoft. For a small business to come all the way to Seattle is a pain. So what we do is we help you get together with partners, channel partners and otherwise, who would be within a specific domain and find a way to be able to work with them for you. So we have a different business that essentially focuses just on the small and medium businesses. The customers that come and meet you are the large companies. The ones that you have to go meet are the small and medium ones. So we introduce you to specific channel related opportunities. Makes sense? More questions? Yes?
Hi, I'm Angel Rich from
Angel?
What stage of a company are you all looking for?
We're typically looking for a company that has some kind of a product. If you're doing revenue, great. If you have some customer validation, great. But if the company, like he had mentioned before, the company is doing a significant amount of revenue, has a lot of people. We've had some companies, by the way, Heatworks in the previous couple of slides I showed you, that has a little over $1.5 million. They actually moved their entire team because they found more value in the program than not. But typically, we're looking for somebody that has a minimum viable product, has a product out of the market, a prototype out, for example, or has one to customers. That's probably the sweet spot. Looking to raise a seed round, something like that.
I got one.
A couple of them, yeah. Sorry, she's got a mic. She's running the show.
Hi, my name is Rick, Rock Solutions
Hey,
Group.
Rick.
What is this is a pretty obvious question, what is the application and acceptance criteria process?
What is the application criteria and what is the acceptance? There are two portions of it. One is absolute and one is relative. We get typically about 400 to 500 applicants in any given cohort, and we're looking to select between 10 to 15 companies within that cohort itself. We're looking for three important things. Someone that's focused on an extremely large market. For us, that becomes very important. The amount of time that we spend on companies that are doing small markets, which typically to us is anything less than $1 billion, versus companies that are much larger market, tracking something that's $1 billion market, is the same. The effort, time, and energy is the same. So we prefer to be able to work with companies doing large, dramatically interesting market change, the disruptive things. Second thing we're looking for is entrepreneurs that are actually passionate and committed to the specific space itself. And we prefer to work. And I think I mentioned this to Grant this morning when we were having a discussion. Large markets, we love. Small markets, there's not much we can do. If you cannot leverage the big muscle of what Microsoft can provide for a large market, then I think it becomes difficult for you to be able to justify why you have to move all the way. And the third thing we're looking for is some kind of passion to show us that that's actually a disruptive kind of product that can make a difference in a significant way. Fair enough? Is it okay? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I don't think I need that, but I'll do it anyway. So I run an accelerator too,
Yeah.
and I give people $25,000, and we do the same thing, minimum viable product, and we don't take a stake. But right here next to me is someone who went through our program in 2013. She is intellectual property. The software actually works with Microsoft Connect and your product, and I think it's about using gaming for physical rehabilitation,
Okay. And your
and it's
question
a
is?
patent and software, and so I think she should apply, should she?
Sure.
Yeah, it's a big enough addressable market.
Fair enough.
She has LifeBridge as a client.
Sure. The question was, should she apply? Absolutely.
That's the answer.
Thank you. More questions? Yes.
My question was, obviously there's a lot of stakes.
We've got a mic for you.
Oh, okay.
Everybody wants to hear you, man.
Thank you.
And your name as well.
My name is Sharet Mekla. My question is, obviously there are a lot of accelerators, as you just mentioned. So my initial question is, what would you say your pros are? Where are you guys weak? How do you guys stack up against a bunch of the other accelerators?
Sure.
And
Great question.
last is, how strong is your alumni network? Because you see a lot of accelerators that fail at the alumni part. So those would be kind of my three parts.
Sure.
Strengths, weaknesses, and then alumni part.
Strengths-wise, I think trying to give so much value for literally no percentage of the company is pretty unique in itself. Most accelerators we know, very different from what you mentioned, actually take a percentage of the company. Why would you want to give 7% of a company when you're at the stage where you don't even know if the value is going to be significant or not, number one. Second, I don't think there's any accelerator in the world that can give you the access to customers like we do. Nobody does. I don't think there's anybody in the world that can. We actually get largest of large customers coming in every day. In fact, multiple of them from all over the world. So if you want customer access, which I believe is more important than funding in some sense, we're probably the best accelerator we have. The third one is most of the other accelerators actually don't have dedicated resources to be able to help you with advice on design, advice on development. And we actually own some of the platforms that you're developing and talk about. Who's the better company to ask for those kinds of designs, right? Okay. What we don't do very well. What are the things that we've challenged with, or what do we suck at? The first thing we suck at is, we do a lot. We do a lot of stuff. And what happens in a lot of cases when you do a lot of stuff is that you don't get the attention and the love and the experience that maybe you would get at a place that takes far fewer companies and has individual attention for yourself. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. Right now in the current cohort, how many people know about Y Combinator? Most of you do. Y Combinator in the current cohort is 115 companies. 115 companies in their cohort. How much love and attention are you going to get? Only so much, right? Whereas here at 1776, there are about another 100 companies or so. More than that. Yeah. So you get a sense of a little bit of a community as well. What we don't do a good job of is being able to figure out how to scale ourselves more effectively through those resources. So what happens is you have 10 to 15 companies. You've all got to be able to find a way to be able to network yourself into a large company like Microsoft, and we don't make it easy. Right? Because I've been here for 2.5 years, I'm still trying to figure out who are the guys doing which kinds of specific products within Microsoft. I don't think we're good at that at all. Right? The last thing we're not very good at is, I don't think we've told a good story ourselves to a lot of people. So most people just don't know us. I'm surprised we only get 500 applications. Given the fact that I was a Y Combinator a little bit back in part of the company, I would have thought that by now we should have got 2 to 3 times. So we haven't told our story as to why we're effective, what we're good at, and where we problem. So unfortunately, it seems like the cobbler's son doesn't wear any shoes. Right? And then the last part of it, just one more question. Third part of the question, we have one more part of it. Sorry?
Yeah, the third part was the alumni.
Alumni program, we got a lot of work to do. We're good. The alumni come in, they are engaged, they actually do some of the program. I walk you through the schedule. They actually run some of the schedule themselves as opposed to us running everything. And it's not classroom style. They actually tell you, this is what I did, this did work. Very similar to what I did just now. But I think we're content, but we're not satisfied. There's a lot more stuff that we have to do with the alumni program. Here's the thing, right? 89% of my companies have gotten funded. So they're pretty much up and running on their own. Nobody can claim this, right? Except for maybe 1 or 2, maybe Y Combinator and 500 startups. Nobody else can claim an 89% funding rate post the Accelerator program by a third party. So we're pretty darn doing good in that sense. But what we don't do a good job is letting companies know why we don't actually go ahead and fund a lot of the companies. Or why we don't acquire a lot of companies. Microsoft cannot. We're not built to be able to acquire so many companies. Yes, sir.
For the typical companies that are accepted to the program.
Can you get the mic? He's very specific that you get the mic.
For the typical companies that are accepted to your program, do you expect like the CEO, the CTO, the marketing, like who do you expect to come to the location? Like,
whoever you think can benefit, so who do you think would have to come to Seattle to be a part of the program? Whoever you think can benefit from the customer access and the design and technology. If that is the CTO, great. If that's someone who's 2 levels below in the organization who actually is doing the work, that's also fine. Anybody that will benefit from actually talking, listening, and working with customers every day, and talking, listening, and working with technology, design, and product management every day, these are people that we want there. Fair enough.
Hi, Visma Carver from Carver Global Health Group. So I have a couple questions. Sure. One is, do you have certain line of businesses that you're interested in? Are there subsets? So for example, in healthcare, are you interested in data that accelerates innovation for medical technologies, or are you looking for the actual wearables of a technology? And the second part—
I would say both of them.
Both of them?
Both.
Okay, yes, great. And the second part is, do you have a preference over LLCs or C Corps and those kind of businesses?
We're looking to raise funding, which is what I think a lot of companies are looking to do. Being an LLC is a tough place to be because most investors don't like LLCs. So we'd like to make sure that you're set up for being able to raise funding if that's what your goal is. That being said, we funded 2 nonprofits as well as part of the program. it is up to you. But if you're looking to get funded, which is one key metric that a lot of startups say, I want to be able to go ahead and do this. If you're not a CEO, then it's very hard. More questions? Yes. Go for it. Here.
Hi, my name is Ashraf Nabi from Habib LLC. Is there an advantage if we use Microsoft technologies over other technologies?
Good question. Yes, there is. So if you use Microsoft technology, there's a. If you use Microsoft technologies, you get the full sales team to come and actually engage with you all along. And Microsoft salespeople, like every other salespeople, care about what they sell and how they make money, right? If you sell something that sits on top of something that they sell, they will push your software. Otherwise, we just get customers in front of you. Some of the customers may ask you, I already am on Azure. If you've got this only on AWS, we won't be able to use it. You get the introductions. You meet somebody. If they really think that your solution is extremely compelling, they may actually make the move. If you're on top of Azure, probably move with it. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Arn. I'm with SimpleTix. We're an e-commerce enterprise-grade solution for online ticketing, and we use Azure right now. And one of the questions I have is, how do you stand out with 400 other applicants? Like, is there any tips you recommend to stand out with videos, for example, or anything like that?
So we want a 15-year projection of your financial plan. Now we have the question was, how do you stand out in the group of what kind of applications? The only thing that works is get recommendations. Recommendations is the only thing that works. Talk to Brett, hound him. Talk to Shahid Rishnaid, he's there. Talk to the 1776 guys. Right? Get recommendations from people who we know, because we farm out a lot of our who should we talk to. That's the reason why we have partners like 1776 here, Chicago, we have 1871. 1871, we have 1945 somewhere else. No, we don't? Okay, Rocket Space in San Francisco. So we have a lot of these partners. Get as many people to recommend you to us, because then bubble up a lot. That's the only thing that has worked for us. Otherwise, I'll tell you another thing as to how we do it. And I think I wanted to show it, but I don't think it can. We actually have an algorithm that tracks every one of our companies using specific parameters. So as soon as you submit your URL and your background, we go and get your data from LinkedIn, we get your data from Twitter, we get internal data as well, and then we put a number associated with every one of those. And then we have a rank for sure. And we rank everything that the company does. If you have a co-founder, we'd be able to find out from LinkedIn how long you and your co-founder have been together in the business, or how long you've known each other. That is also given a rank. Someone who's not worked with their co-founder before, the rank is lower. So a lot of those things matter. More questions? Yes.
How are you doing? Thanks for doing this. I'm Bill Cunningham from National Crowdfunding Services. I've got 3 questions. Number one, how far back of the shop can the startups that you select get? Can they look at technology that Microsoft is working on, if it makes sense for their product? Do you give them access to the back of the store? Stuff that you guys are working on that won't come out for another 5 years or so?
Rarely.
Okay.
Rarely. So the question is, how far back can you reach into Microsoft research or hardware?
That's correct.
We make some introductions, but really, the big challenge we find is most startups are worried about their intellectual property, as Microsoft is also worried about Microsoft's intellectual property. So there tends to be one important thing for you to know is anything that you build during the program, including the hackathon, Microsoft people will come and participate, and it is yours. Microsoft owns no intellectual property towards whatever you build that is for you. So they do not want to get into that gray area. And getting in gray areas with startups is a pain.
All right. Second part, federal incubator. You kind of have your focus. Any thought to doing an incubator? Okay. Third question.
Question was, we do a federal incubator or anything associated with federal? Answer is no.
Third question, last one, is women and minority companies. So I spoke at the Federal Communications yesterday on a tech day fair where one of the focuses was women and minority-owned companies, the dearth there. Don't know, I hesitate to ask this. One of the people that showed up or was on the schedule was your diversity coordinator, Mr. Hernandez. Don't know if that's a factor, just want to put that
out. Of the companies that we've invested in so far, a little over 11% or 12%, I think. Some 11, 12%. And some of those also that you can talk to her a little bit after the program to try and get a little bit more that actually are women entrepreneurs. I don't think I have a number on what the minority portion of it is represented beyond that. But we'd love to be able to get entrepreneurs of all types. Gender doesn't matter, age doesn't matter. In fact, the average age of our entrepreneurs is closer to the 38 range, not necessarily the 20s range. So the assumption is that we take a bunch of school kids and move them across to Seattle and do it. I think that's an incorrect assumption. But I don't think that, I can also, to be honest, I don't think we've done a good job of maybe reaching out to minorities and getting more minority representation in our startup investments, and that's probably an area for us to improve. Yes, sir.
Good evening, John Stewart, CTO Ventures. Two quick questions. The first is we do quite a bit of federal government contracting, but none of this is related at all. That's what I'm gathering. In terms of when you talk about large clients, you give us access to it. We do a lot of government work, HR, PeopleSoft, those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. What I thought he mentioned is federal government work was, would there be a necessity to do an accelerator in federal government related opportunities here? That's not the case. We do have customers in federal government as well, public sector, local, and state. And if you need access to those, we try and find a way and make things individual with that.
Fantastic. The other side is that we've got an angel investor, and so he's actually looking for technology companies to invest in. Since you guys
want an angel investor in their company?
Right. Because you guys are not taking an equity stake, and we'd like to take an equity stake. So I'm just curious, if one were to be in the program, is that also an opportunity to network, and if we want to invest in some of the other companies?
Absolutely. Talk to Sonal, she'll try and get you invested in some of the companies that we're in, and our complete there. Sonal's right back there. Just folks in our team, try it. Come on. There's Brett. Sonal. Brett. Yeah. No, I'm almost done. If you have any questions just about specific areas where we're talking here, anybody else you're missing? Okay, all of these guys are here. I know that you'll have a lot more questions after this, so feel free to reach out to any of these folks. They will be able to help you. If you pay them cash, they'll probably ready. If you buy them drinks, they'll say go to hell because they go and get it free. If you take them out for dinner, there's likelihood they'll say maybe not, because most of them don't live here, except for both of these gentlemen. So they're both here local in the DC area.
Take it next.
Oh, you were waiting. I thought you said anything as well. So all of these folks are here as well. Feel free to reach out to them for more questions associated with it.
Thank you.
One last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Somebody had a mic somewhere.
I do. I've got it.
Yeah, go for it.
It's right here. Two unrelated questions. Number one, this sounds like as much of a philanthropic venture as it is a capitalistic venture. And the bottom line is that it's good for Microsoft in reaching markets that you may have neglected to some degree in the past. Whose idea was this? You're obviously an excellent spokesperson for it, but who's the inception wizard behind this? And secondly...
Let me answer that first, and
sure.
That I usually forget the second question, and I'll go back to you again. So I think a lot of people ask this question. This is not a part of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Okay.
So this is not a philanthropic venture at all within Microsoft. There are different ways by which you could approach startups, and there are different ways by which we've tried every possible way. This seems to be a way that has worked well for us. Usually at Microsoft, given that we're a large company, how many of you have worked at much larger companies? Yeah, so just ask any of these guys, they'll tell you, larger companies, there's no one person that comes up with this stuff. It's usually a committee, designed by committees, everything what large companies do. So we had about 3 or 4 people who said, let's try this, let's try that. We tried 4 or 5 different things. It seemed to work. This seems to be the only way we are. Second question.
Okay, now this is going to be a tough question, but I know you're good with statistics, so you should be able to handle this. Because so many Microsoft employees and associates come from various parts of the country. What have you found in terms of statistics of Seattle Seahawks fans versus that other team?
You mean Deflategate?
I have no idea. The question was, how many Seattle Seahawks fans in Microsoft?
Yeah.
I would say probably a significant percentage, but I have no idea. Who's talking with that? More questions? Yes, Scott.
What's the timeline? So I submitted an application. Walk us through how long.
Perfect. We're pretty much getting to the point. This is what typical, I'll come to your question in the next slide. This is what a typical program would actually look like. We start about March. There are 4 specific categories of sprints that we focus on. Right up top is the customer development related sprint. We focus on trying to get you to understand what customers are saying, more validation and distribution and sales. The technology sprint portion comes in the middle part. Towards the later part, we actually focus on marketing. And then the operating plan, getting together, ready for funding is the last part of the sprint. Each of these sprints is actually run by us. All the sprints are optional, meaning you want to attend, you can attend them. You have more questions, you can get more data if you want to. We advise you to actually go through it with them. They're not classroom style sprints, they're essentially check-ins. You want to keep making sure you're moving towards what you want to do. Timeline. So we have a batch kickoff in March, we have a demo day in July. Over the next 15 days, if you're one of the shortlisted, so we get about 500 applications. In these events, we meet and we shortlist up to about 100 odd applications, and we think that we've actually landed. We think that these guys are actually interested in working with us. Then we go down to about 50. We invite about 25 companies or so in February 15th, 16th, 16th, I think it is. And then 16th of March is when we start. So between that time is when we get about 10 to 15 companies. One last question, more questions? That's pretty much it in terms of the overview. Yes, go for it.
The sweet spot of the number of recommendations you're looking for, and once you submit the application, can you submit more recommendations after that?
So can you submit more recommendations applications? Absolutely you can. There's no sweet spot. The sweet spot is the person in the suite, that's the spot. If you know somebody, we really value that. We really value partnerships with people like 1776. So we get somebody who we know, many that we work with every day, work with a lot of these folks. If they come back and say, you know what, I'm working with this company. Because the thing is, you can make a decision based on 15, 20 minutes of discussion with all these people and what you're in for the application. There's no way we do that. So what we do, that's also good. Just make sure you talk to Brett, talk to someone, get them to recommend you.
That's the recommendation I have.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. Name as well.
Andy Richmond,
Andy,
Product Savvy. So I had an interesting experience with Microsoft with my previous startup. I'm sure you know there's a bit of a reputation out there in terms of the way Microsoft historically has engaged with startups. So this was an interesting one because we had a very interesting technology. We got introduced to a number of people at Microsoft. When I mentioned that to my patent attorney in the following day, he almost threw up on the spot because of the reputation of Microsoft around IP and other issues with startups, and in fact involved in some of those issues. I then actually went out to the West Coast, spoke to our lawyers out on the West Coast. They also were equally concerned about our engagement with Microsoft and sharing the technology. You alluded to some of this earlier, and I think there's a bit of a history here, so I just would be interested to get your perspective on how those issues are being addressed and the kind of reputational issues you really want to engage with it. Yeah.
So we guys, the question is, will Microsoft take my technology, understand what I'm trying to do, and rebuild it into one of the products? That's a reputation we've had for a long time. I don't necessarily know if there's any way to be able to defend that in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not going to say we didn't do it. I'm not going to say we're not going to do it or something like that. What I'll tell you is the most important thing we focus on is to try and help the company do what they're doing best. If there is a specific set of things, so what we've done 3 specific things. In the buildings that we house you guys, no Microsoft employees are actually allowed to come in unless and until the startup specifically requires it. So if you say, I want to meet with this person, you're taking the risk, not us. So none of the folks, in fact, the amazing part is Brett and Sonal, actually not Sonal, but Brett, and even Sahid and some of these guys are not allowed into the accelerator space at all. This is not just them. Even senior executives in the company complain to me that we're not allowed into that space, number one. So we try and make sure that we have sensitivity around perimeter fencing. Number 2, you really do not have to disclose. By mutual NDA, you will have to disclose certain set of things as well as to what you're working on. To be able to refer you at least to the application. But you do not have to disclose any portion of your technology to anybody else who is associated with Microsoft directly or anything. If you need any help from them, you probably have to disclose that, but that you're doing under your own risk. And you're fully aware of the function of what you're trying to do. Here's the most amazing part. Microsoft and all of the other technology companies, they're all building new stuff all the time. The thing that I figured out is that smaller companies just move faster. The killer for Microsoft is the fact that we have to move 189,000 people shift from one direction on one thing to another product in another direction. It's just hard to do that. It's extremely hard to do that. How many of you have, most of you here are fairly young, but how many of you have known about the Microsoft Windows tablet in 1996, 95? When the hell was that? How many of you knew that there was a Microsoft tablet that looked like the freaking iPad? And see where we are. It doesn't mean anything. It just means you're able to do market, go to market much better, you're able to move much faster, which you can, which is the only thing that a lot of small companies have to a large extent against companies like Microsoft or Google or anybody else. I mean, there's nothing that stops Google from taking whatever you've built and putting it into their product. Speed is the only thing that most of you guys have. And the second part of it is you actually build intellectual property that you can keep for yourself. And even if you do disclose, it's much harder for someone to replicate. So that's pretty much it. More questions? Yes? Hold on a second, there's a microphone. You know how singing and everything? Yes.
My name's Matt. Is there any like restrictions if you're already in the process of, getting an investor capital to get into the program?
Yeah, there's no restrictions. So if you're already raising money, if you already raise money, there's no restrictions associated. One question. There's the gentleman here.
I came in late and just found out about this a couple of hours ago from Microsoft Direct. I apologize if you covered some of these things. I noticed that you talked about applications and recommendations, right? So what if we have people that have a presence that are very interested in some of the products we're building, but are unable to give recommendations because of the positions they occupy? For instance, we have a lot of federal, we have some unique things we're doing in the federal space. We're solving some unique problems there. So we have proof, we have emails, we have pilots, but they just don't have the leeway as a federal agency without all the hoopla and the whatever the process that's involved behind a federal agency to give us that letter of recommendation. But maybe a meeting or something like that might happen. I don't know if that will happen, but how does that transform into an application?
Get someone we know to make a recommendation. They usually just pick up the phone and do it with us. So a lot of companies, we just get someone who knows us. The most important thing, the reason why we trust 7876, the reason why we trust all of our folks, because we have a relationship with them. For example, if I get a recommendation, even let's say it's from some very good federal agency, I don't know the person, that person's recommendation is as good as anybody else. Right? But not as good as a person who I've worked with, who I've dealt with for a long period. So that's important. So get someone that knows us. I know it's a high bar, but that's the easiest way. By the way,
I think it's a low bar. I mean, the problems that are out in the commercial area that are so unique and innovative, that need innovative solutions, unfortunately, I mean, you have no purview into that because you're on the commercial side, and I think startups like us are reaching that, right? So the whole purpose of a BizSpark Accelerator is to reach that.
We're not the BizSpark Accelerator, right? We're purely the Microsoft Ventures Accelerator. We're not a BizSpark Accelerator.
Somebody from BizSpark reached out.
Right. So here's the thing. We may not be, like I mentioned to a couple of different folks, we may not be a good fit for 100% of the companies. And we are okay with that. You've got to be okay with that as well. I am not our accelerator program for every startup. We do not want to be that. That's not our goal. There may be 80% of startups that may not be a good fit that don't meet some normative criteria, and we're okay with that. You've got to be, it's very important for us to be absolutely crystal clear on what we will do and what we won't do. And I think that is very, very critical. I do not want to be all things to all people.
So where do you draw? So what is your differentiating factor?
Here's the thing, we will look at every application.
You're a technical company.
We will look at every application, right? It's not that we will not. There are a lot of things that we might initially say, hey, we understand this, now let's go do a little bit more research. There are some things that may not. And the only thing that so we put applications very similar to most of these guys into 3 buckets. Things that we think are very good, things that we don't know about, things that we definitely think we won't touch. The ones that we're really concerned about is the second one. That's where the recommendations make or break. The ones that we already want to talk about, there is a lot of companies that we reach out proactively and say, hey, can you tell us a little bit more? If we don't understand it, there's no way we can help you. So on the flip side, I come back and tell you, if I don't understand your business, you don't want me to.
Maybe does
that make sense?
No, it doesn't, because I'm not talking about the business model. I'm asking about entering the program. And I'm trying to understand where the line of delineation is. All I'm asking,
the program is run by people like me. If we don't understand your business, you do not want us involved in your business. That's the thing. If I do not understand your business based on what you said, I don't think you want me involved.
Sorry, I think maybe we'll take this offline.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, go for it.
Are you able to split the 4 months with the different members of the company, or is only one representative?
You can have as many people attend, but here's the thing that I know. Continuity is important, so I think more you can have one person there during the periods of when you're doing development, during those 2 months, good to have one person, then you bring someone who's more customer oriented. Does that make sense? More questions? Yes?
Hi, my name is Misha from Open Reporter. Question for companies. So 15 companies are accepted out of 500. Does Microsoft have any like services for startups, like discounts on various product or platform uses?
Hey, Brett, come up. Brett, come up. There's a question for you. Yeah, go ahead.
The question was for companies that aren't accepted into the venture program, do you guys have discounts on various services of yours, like Bing Translate, pricing programs, and such of that sort?
So the general program, so BizSpark is the first place that are you enrolled in BizSpark or familiar with it? So talk with me afterwards and we'll get you set up there, because that's that's where the access to the resource starts. It gives it to you free for 3 years, and which including on the cloud side, it's up to $750 a month. In cloud credit, when you get to the point you're exhausting that, we have a BizSpark Plus program which can get you up to $60,000 per year. And so that's the path we would go. And then once we're in there, if there's something that doesn't fit the program, we can always figure out through the local connection. But I'll chat with him and we'll be able to do that. More questions?
In terms of relocating to Seattle, do you guys provide any assistance with all that? We're about to pack up our lives, so we're coming to live out there. Housing or anything like that? Is it campus housing type stuff, or
so we just
gotta show up for day one?
Yeah, so we provided the housing the last time over, and everybody complained. They said, "Oh, this room is not good. This is only 2 bedrooms. There's only 1 bedroom. This is half a bedroom. I want a bathroom that faces the lake. My breakfast is not good. Muffins I don't like. I like brown bread. You're giving me eggs that are not cage-free." We're like, forget it. Here's the $25,000. Do what you want. We can give you recommendations of where you could go, but you can do the money whatever you want. We're not taking any percentage of the company. The $25,000 is to do whatever you want with the money.
So, but you need that for your company, not for
Sorry?
But you need that for your company, not for living expenses.
This is part of the living expenses in Seattle doesn't come up more than about, for the 4 months, it doesn't come up more than about $1,000.
I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood the program then. The $25,000 is not necessarily, ooh, you got a great business idea, we work with you 4 months, we give you $25,000 to help your business grow. It's to help you live and make it through the program, and if you have extra, you can put in the business or whatever else.
$25,000 is for you to do whatever you want. If you have to use it as part of the program, that's fine. We're not going to.
That's not bad salary. 4 months, I'll take it.
More questions.
Don't throw it
So
away.
coming back to your point, $25,000. Last time around, we actually told them, here's the living, and we got complaints. So we said, no, we just give you $25,000. None of the companies spent more than $8,000 and $9,000.
That's a lot. I mean, that's almost, that's like, what, 35%?
Yeah.
40%? I mean, that's more than going into your company.
That's unfortunately what we do. It's a good point. I think it's a valid point. That's part of the program, yes.
What's the estimated total value of services? Because you provide a lot of services. What is it on average?
It's a rough estimate I'd give you, something in range. So it's including design resources, including development, help and advice and support, somewhere in the range of about $60,000 to $75,000. Above and beyond the $25,000 investment.
Plus all the cloud.
Correct. That one goes up to about $150,000. On the BizSpark program, the baseline is about estimate about $25,000 over 3 years, and if you add $60,000 on top of it, it's up to $90,000. It's kind of what we estimate. More questions? Yes.
So the $25,000, I assume it's in the form of a note. So if the company is successful, at some point this note either needs to be paid back or converted into something.
$25,000 is an equity conversion non-note.
Okay.
So it's yours. Think of it like a grant. You don't have to do anything.
25 grand.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Shashi Kang from Rehabtics. Here's a question. Is the application open now, and where can we go to start the application?
Yeah, you can go to microsoftventures.com, and then there's an application button. Application is closed. Try and get it in as quickly as possible because we're in the last few days of closing applications.
So what's the application deadline?
Deadline is January 30th, tomorrow.
Friday.
Friday.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
forgive me, I'm new to all this. I've never heard of an accelerator before today. I'm not quite sure how it all works, and when I'm working on it requires a lot of software.
Right.
All of my time is spent writing software. So if I'm doing this, how am I writing software at the same time? How does this all work together?
It's a good question, which is, okay, what do you do in the Accelerator? Your Accelerator, what are you doing is actually writing software. If you want access to customers to be able to go ahead and get validation for the product, you're just doing more. You don't have to do it, but probably is good use of your time. If you want help with someone who can actually help you scale, and you feel you need their advice to be able to figure out how to scale this to make sure it's significant in size, they'll help you. You don't have to use it, you could. That's the way to look at it. In an Accelerator program, you do pretty much what it is that you were doing at the time, but if there's anything above and beyond that you need help for, please come.
Let's do one more question.
Go ahead.
Let's do one more question.
One more question.
Earlier you spoke about the pros and cons of Microsoft as an accelerator, but you didn't touch upon mobility, and that's kind of, if you're looking at, doing something in mobility, Microsoft is still very much a big question. I think whether or not there's any catch-up in uniform collapse. So what's your thought on that?
We have quite a lot of companies in the mobility space. Most of them actually developed for iOS and Android. We're okay with that. We understand that we live in a world that has a lot of different companies with OSs and mobile that are different from Windows.
Can I ask one last question?
Yeah, sure. The last question.
Okay. My name is Chris Pollack. Just started my startup, DigiSticky, and I'm in the process of building my MVP. I'm trying to figure out, as far as development support goes, what kind of developers you have. It's built on a Ruby stack. And are the developers there that you're going to have access to us to kind of network with? Mostly developers that are built on, .NET or other native applications from Microsoft, or is it things that you have other developers that we can talk to if we come into a pinch?
People that are advising will have full stack open source experience, including Ruby, Node.js, Angular, and a lot of people also know how to do Xcode and stuff on iOS. Yeah. We have people on Saturday. Good? Okay, back to Brett. Thank you again just for taking the time out. We're gonna still be here. I just figured while we're having the dialogue and as people want to get up and down, we'll still be here to answer any other questions. But I just wanted to kind of end the formal part of this presentation and say thank you very much for spending your time with us tonight. Hopefully you found something new or interesting and you have a reason to apply to the Accelerator. So otherwise, have a great evening, safe travels home, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks a lot.